The plumbing in your RV will most likely eventually leak, but it's nothing you've done, it's just how they're built. I'll explain the problem and show you how to fix it with off-the-shelf parts coming right up. Hey everyone, it's James, and before we get into the plumbing problem, I'd like to tell you that this video is sponsored by our friends at Camco, who, by the way, have just relaunched their new and improved Taste Pure water filter. Now, if you're an RVer, you've probably used a Taste Pure filter. It's the blue one. The new and improved Taste Pure features 6-step filtration technology, and the end result is clean and tasty water. And speaking of the new Taste Pure, you should make sure to use it when you sanitize your RV's water system, which you should always do, I always recommend, after any plumbing mod like this one. So let's get going. Most of the plumbing in your RV is probably made out of this stuff. This is PEX, which stands for cross-linked polyethylene tubing. It's decent stuff. It's good and sturdy. It's not likely to burst, so it's great for an RV application. Manufacturers, when they build things, they'll take these PEX fittings and they'll like that, and then they'll take a band clamp and they'll run around it. You can see a band clamp. It's kind of like these things over here, and this makes a connection that's a good connection. It's easy to do, it's inexpensive, and it's very fast. And you don't often get good, easy, and fast all in one, so manufacturers love it. It works great when you're building an RV. But there are problems. So the problems come because sometimes they need to use something like this. This is a vinyl tubing, right? And this is a bit bigger. We'll get to that later. This is some vinyl tubing I cut out of our own RV. And they have to use this sometimes because the plumbing might have to make a bend that's just a little too tight. I mean, you can bend this a little bit, but sometimes you have to make bends that are a little too tight for PEX to make comfortably. So they have to do this. Or maybe it's in our bathroom, like the one we're doing today, our shower wall that has to rotate back and forth. This stuff doesn't want to move around a lot and easily, so they use the vinyl tubing. And it's very close in diameter to the PEX, but it's not exactly the same. But they still use the same band clamps or whatever, and they cinch it and whatever. And eventually, this winds up leaking, this kind of connection. The connections where they make this to actual PEX, these are going to be fine. The ones where they make it to the vinyl tubing is somewhat compressible. You've got a little bulging, etc. So I've got a bunch of random fittings and stuff I've snipped out of our own RV here. We're going to take a few measurements just to kind of show you why we have this problem. Here's a piece of PEX tubing, and we're going to measure kind of the inside diameter of this PEX tubing. And I'm just working in millimeters today, and we're coming up with something that's right about 12 millimeters-ish, 12.06 millimeters inside diameter. Okay, great. Now, the inside diameter of this, and this is what I just cut out of our RV, the inside diameter here is like 13 millimeters. So not quite the same. Trouble is when you use the same fittings, and this is a fitting, this fitting is going to be closer to 12 millimeters in diameter. It's going to be a little smaller than that. We got 11.93 millimeters in diameter. So fits pretty good here, and that actually will hold it without even a clamp, right? It's stiff enough. But if you were to put that in here, it doesn't hold. It would just fall out, right? So the trouble is, the manufacturers use these same fittings for attaching both PEX and the vinyl tubing, and it's just not really made for that. You couldn't do that in a house. They wouldn't allow that. So that's sort of the problem. And the other problem is because they use it because there's not a fitting made that's one end PEX and the other end vinyl tubing. There's nothing made that actually bridges this problem. But I found something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to fix this with off-the-shelf parts. And this is the fitting that's going to fix it, or part of it, the fitting that's going to fix it. This is a Flair-it fitting. Flair-it. Ta-da! And what this is a fitting that's made for PEX tubing. So and there's a whole bunch of different kinds, right? There's just unions, there's elbows with a swivel fitting, which is what we're going to be using today. All kinds of plumbing fittings like you might need. Here's one with just a 1/2-inch pipe thread on it. So there's one end of it on this fitting that's got just a little cap like that, right? And that is meant to fit inside of PEX. And you'd have to work at it to get it in there, but you could get it in there. You could push it in. So right away, I can see why they don't use this when they manufacture RVs, because it would take them a while to, force these in all the time, right? So that's how it's meant to work with PEX. With the vinyl tubing, like this, if you were to just push that in there, it would be a little too loose. It would still require some effort to get in there, but it would be a little too loose. So, besides the fittings, they make this kind of adapter kit for using the Flair-it fittings with vinyl tubing. It consists of two parts. One, there's a little sleeve, a little rubber sleeve, like a washer kind of material. And then there's a larger cap to allow you to fit the hose in it. And so the way this works is you put this little washer thing on there and you snug it all the way down, just like that, right? So then you take what you're going to attach it to, you put the hose or the circular fitting on there, you force this on, and it will go. It'll just take you a little minute, but you just work it on there. And there we go. I've attached it, and you can see I've got it all the way down to the end. So, and then you just screw this down, and it's a compression fitting. So your initial response, if you're like me, your initial response when one of these kinds of connections goes bad is going to be to try to use a hose clamp. And that's what I had done here previously to repair this, right? But the problem with the hose clamp is that you're going to over tighten it. It's just what's going to happen. And then you'll start to extrude the hose material through the clamp, and you can see I've already got quite a bit of blossoming around the clamp there. And that's eventually going to leak too. This is a compression fitting. It kind of seals things all the way around. And then you can just hand tighten that, although they do make a little Flair-it wrench, which I got one because I was excited. I had finally found a solution. So, and then you can tighten that like that. There you go. And that is going to be a leak-proof fitting. This is something that's meant to work for what you're using it for, unlike using a PEX fitting for vinyl tubing. Now, I'm going to caution you, and this is something I didn't learn until I had already cut the vinyl tubing I bought from the store, so heed my tale of woe. Vinyl tubing in your RV is probably 5/8 inch outer diameter. The stuff I got from the home center was 3/4 of an inch outside diameter, and so I couldn't get these. They don't fit, right? So if you're going to go buy some tubing, and I can't return it now because I cut it, right? So if you're going to buy some tubing, make sure you get the stuff that's 5/8 of an inch outside diameter, and then it will work just fine with these. Now, I've tested these fittings elsewhere in our RV, and we've had no leaks, so I'm going to go ahead and release this video, and we're going to go ahead and fix what's up under the bathroom, and you're along for the ride, so let's cut the other one out. Okay, so one of the things I like about this mod is that you don't really need any special tools even to pull this off. You need whatever you're going to cut the tubing with, but I'm assuming you probably already have like at least a pair of scissors or something, right? And there is this little Flair-it wrench, but that's totally optional, and it honestly works better with the white caps than the black ones anyway. Anyway, and I should mention that I have no affiliation to Flair-it. I found these on Amazon, paid full price, etc., etc., etc. I'll put links in the, there'll be links in the description so you can go and find these yourselves. Anyway, so first I got to unhook this other plumbing thing. I have a cup to catch water. Here we go. The other thing I don't like about using the hose clamps for this kind of thing, come on. The other thing I don't like about using the hose clamps is that, there we go. When they get long, like, I don't know if you can see this, but look in here. When they get long, you wind up with a little tail of a hose clamp on there, and you're going to wind up cutting yourself on it. I'm surprised I haven't cut myself on it already. Before I forget which is cold and which is hot, let's finish one first. This is the one I had cut off previously. Okay, fast forward, and I've got both hot and cold done. What we cut out here was a whole lot of struggling because I was bitten by the same thing I warned you about just like a moment ago, and that's even here within the same RV, I have vinyl tubing with different diameters on the outside. This vinyl tubing here is 3/4 of an inch on the outside, different from the other 5/8 of an inch tubing I've got elsewhere in the RV. And the 3/4 inch stuff, very difficult to, in fact, I kind of even bent my new super Flair-it tool. I bent one of these little pieces of metal in there, trying to get it on. But I got it on, and so it's like time now to turn on the water and see if we get any leaks. So here we go. All right, let's do... That's our gulper pump. You'll just have to endure that. I'm sorry. We have to endure it all. I can't turn it off. We have to endure it too. So, all right, so let's try. This is either hot or cold. No leaks there. Okay, now we'll try the other one. So here, come in close, have a look. We got no leaks that I can see. Slurp, 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 slurp. Okay, I'm even going to do this, my little tissue test. If there are any leaks, it'll show up pretty readily. Wiping it with a tissue, and I got nothing. We're leak free. I'm gonna leave the pump on a little while, and we'll come back in a bit and make sure it's not leaking, but I'm pretty much gonna call this done. One final step, of course, is to sanitize your RV's freshwater system. Why? Well, I don't know how clean the workspace in the Flair-it factory is, but I probably wouldn't want to drink from it. So I always sanitize our RV's plumbing system after a mod like this. And when I do, I'll be using the new and improved Taste Pure filter from our friends at Camco, who brought you this video. It makes no sense to try to sanitize your RV's water system with nasty water, and the Taste Pure uses a 6-step filtration process to get your water clean and tasty. In fact, the Taste Pure is actually certified to ANSI NSF standards 42 and 53. Many other filters are not. And unless you're testing your water yourself, those certifications are kind of important. You can get the filter on Amazon, and we'll put a link in the description, so when you're tossing the fittings into your cart, toss in a Taste Pure filter as well. To recap, the problem, using fittings intended for PEX with vinyl tubing. The solution that I've found are these Flair-it fittings, Flair-it, no affiliation. I bought mine on Amazon. We'll give you a link. And the special kit that they make that has these little rubber washers and the larger cap on it. And other than that, it installs pretty easily. The watch out for is watch out and make sure that you are dealing with tubing that is 5/8 of an inch outer diameter, not 3/4 of an inch outer diameter. You can see the difference there. Because if you have the thicker stuff, just be prepared. You're going to be in for a world of struggle with these, but they will go on, and you can get them to seal up as I did there. So that's it. There will be a link in the YouTube description down below. We'll take you over to a post on thefitRV.com where you can find links to all the parts, etc., etc., etc. And yeah, that's going to do it for now. This is James. We'll see you later. Bye.